What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for November 22nd, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Feel Good Friday edition of the podcast, a rainy, snowy Feel Good Friday, but nonetheless, it is Friday. Let's start with some quick housekeeping notes. First, follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont at Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. And just continue to spread the word. Like I said, I'm working on some things. Thank you to everybody who reached out with copyright lawyers yesterday. I'm going to be busy this weekend making some calls, shooting off some emails and everything. Just trying to figure out my next move. So thank you for that. We're about halfway through the gift card drive. We've already more than doubled our donations from last year, so let's keep it rolling, see if we can hit that goal. Even if it's $5, all the information you need is in the description. We are raising money for gift cards to benefit the Maddie N. Dixon Community Cupboard in Ambler. Great organization, helping our friends and neighbors have a Merry Christmas, a happy holiday season, and like I said, this is a great thing because we all know through the hustle and bustle of the holidays how sometimes you can overlook what's really important, and we take it for granted that we have the means sometimes to give our kids and our families a good Christmas. Not everybody has that luxury, so every little bit helps to make sure these folks can go out and buy some presents so their kids have something to open on Christmas. So go ahead. Donate in the description. It takes you right to the GoFundMe. And if you are going to donate directly to the Maddie Ann Dixon Community Cupboard, be sure to just let them know you're donating on behalf of us. All right, I mentioned the St. Joe's field hockey team. They are set to take on North Carolina today at 1 out in Ann Arbor in the Final Four for the women's field hockey team. That game is actually on ESPN+. I definitely will have it on in the background today at work. So go Hawks, beat the Tar Heels. Now, North Carolina is coming into this game undefeated, so it should be a good game, but looking forward to that. So good luck to the St. Joe's women's field hockey team this afternoon at 1 in the Final Four for the women's NCAA field hockey tournament. All right, let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, should the Sixers consider firing Nick Nurse to kind of spark this team? 58% of you said no. I was surprised at how close this was. I thought there was going to be more of a majority either way. I don't know if that's the solution right now. However, I did read in the Inquirer this morning, and I had mentioned a few times on this podcast about how they should just tank and get the first pick, Cooper Flagg from Duke, and just how it's similar to what the Spurs had happened to them with David Robinson and Tim Duncan. Well, the article kind of outlined the similarities to those two teams right now are very eerily similar. It was the 96-97 season for the Spurs. David Robinson was coming off playing in the Olympics. He got banged up in the Olympics. Missed the first, I forget how many ever games of that season. They went 2-12 in the first 14. I forget who Sean Elliott, I think, who was a veteran, only played in 39 games. See Paul George. Other guys were Avery Johnson, Vinny Del Negro were banged up, Tyrese Maxey. And even like David Robinson was drafted, served his 2 years in the Navy, missed his first 2 years of his NBA career, Joel Embiid. And then they were a consistent playoff team, average, I think, 50-some wins. Look at the Sixers. Never got over the hump. I think they made it to the Western Conference Finals once, but we see the Sixers' playoff failures. They got lucky. They had the third worst record, won the lottery, got Tim Duncan, and then won 5 championships. Now, Cooper Flagg is not Tim Duncan. The drafts are not the way they used to be. I don't think it's a far-fetched idea, though, that maybe this season is just a wash. You kind of I read some of the quotes from the guys on the team. They were saying, we figured if we won, great. And if we lost, well, it's still a win because it's helping the organization long term. That team did make a coaching change. Greg Popovich was the GM. I forget who the coach was, but fired him and put himself in charge. And the rest, as they say, is history. Now, I'm not saying the Sixers are going to get the first pick because, and even if they do, I don't think Cooper Flagg is on the same stratosphere as Tim Duncan. But I thought it was worth mentioning the similarities between the two teams. And you just never know. And I mean, I'm not saying the NBA draft lottery is fixed, but I'm also saying we've never seen the process on how they pick it. Personally, there is no chance in hell the NBA lets the Sixers get the first pick. I feel like a lot of this, maybe I heard a lot of people talk about karma coming back to bite the Sixers for the process. I don't know. I mean, it's a pipe dream, but there is no way that if you're a WWE fan, Vince McMahon used to come out to No Chance in Hell. That's the song that's playing in my head when I think about the Sixers getting the first pick right now. So, but the similarities are eerily similar to the two teams. I completely missed this yesterday, but Joe, after the game, when he was asked about the team meeting, flat out said, whoever leaked this is a piece of shit, and I don't disagree. And whether or not it was an organizational leak, whether or not it was one of the players, I still think that part of the story is getting overlooked because everybody wants to attack Joe for being late and this and that. But I think the fact that this got leaked out, sort of like some of the things that were coming out of the Eagles locker room last year, that's an issue. It's like, so who is the one leaking it? And it's certainly possible that the Sixers are leaking this, and I just think the whole timing of the thing coming off the heels of the Marcus Hayes incident, it just seems a little odd that all the players are kind of downplaying the team meeting, making it seem like this is a normal piece. Paul George on his podcast said this is no different than any other NBA team having meetings like that. But the fact that this was leaked, and it certainly doesn't paint Joe in the greatest of lights, he's right. Whoever did this is a piece of shit, and I think there are bigger issues possibly brewing with this team than just Joe being late. Hence, why it wouldn't be a bad idea to just kind of tank and hope play your luck with the lottery. But again, Cooper Flagg is no Tim Duncan. Sixers are in action tonight. Paul George is out for at least 2 games with the hyperextended knee. Again, more of a bone bruise. There was no structural damage, but I don't know. Sean Elliott, Paul George, both aging veterans. I'm just throwing that out there. Hopefully Tyrese will be on less of a minutes restriction tonight. The Nets down at the Wells Fargo Center. It is an NBA League Cup, which I don't think mathematically the Sixers are out of it, but for all intents and purposes, they're out of it. But our old pal Ben Simmons comes back. Maybe he'll shoot a few air balls. Would not be the least bit surprised if he has a mysterious injury before game time. All right, Flyers. I saw this article too. I forget which site I saw this on. And it was interesting because John Tortorella is more of a hands-on coach and in your face, and coaches sort of like in the moment. And with Matvei Mishkov, due to the language barrier, it's hard to communicate sometimes in the moment. They were interviewing Tortorella, and he basically said there are times where he'll forget and try to coach him and say something, and he just kind of nods his head, and then he realizes that he's not getting it. So they have a weekly meeting one-on-one with the translator where he'll give him the points and tips and the coaching and things like that. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think in some respects it's a good thing because he is only 19, getting adjusted not only to the NHL but America. And it might be good for Tortorella to sort of have a chance to reflect on some of his practices. But at the same time, in the moment, it's hard. He said they were trying to use some of the Flyers players, but then it was impacting their play. So again, just a reminder that this is a rebuilding process, and Mishkov obviously is probably trying to learn English as fast as possible on top of adjusting to all of this. But it was just an interesting dynamic that you don't necessarily think about on a regular basis as a fan, but just how difficult it is with some of the language and cultural barriers that are in place. But for his part, like I said the other day, we're thankful for him, and he's doing well. They're off tonight. They'll be back in action tomorrow against the Blackhawks down at the Wells Fargo Center at 1 p.m. All right, on to the Eagles. So this is an interesting game, to say the least. And I think the Eagles have had success in, I almost said St. Louis, in L.A., against the Rams, and this is the healthiest probably the Rams have been all season. It is going to be a test for the cornerback, specifically Quinyon, who's getting a lot of hype. But the Rams have their own defensive rookie of the year candidate in Jared Verse, and as of right now, he is the odds-on favorite. It's a close race between the two, but if Quinyon can come in and have a big game, those odds could flip a little bit. And if you remember, I did put a bet in for Quinyon to win Defensive Rookie of the Year back at the beginning of the season at much better odds than what he's at now. So that's one of the matchups I'm going to be watching and just see. We know that the Eagles' offensive line is stout, so no pun intended there. So we'll see what happens with that. But just another interesting little wrinkle to this game. So, and in this game will go a long way with tiebreakers because of common opponents between them and the Lions. And something tells me that the race for the number one seed is going to come down to the wire. So you want to get any advantage as you can. My question of the day today. Looking at all this, Devonta didn't practice. He's out 2 weeks, he missed the last 2 games with the hamstring. He's everywhere I read said he's about 50-50 to play. Could this be a trap game for the Eagles? They're coming off a 10-day rest period. Big win over a division rival. Big game next week against the Ravens. Could they fall into the trap here? Now, all year, they have not done this. But that's my question to you. Is this the quintessential trap game for the Eagles? 267-495-8531. That gets you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest? Want to vent about the Sixers? Talk about the Flyers? Give your thoughts on Philly's free agency? All of that is fair game. But is this a trap game for the Birds? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. I don't think so. I think for all the negatives this year and all of the issues that have come up with Nick Sirianni, he usually has them ready to play. Now, if he could get them off to a faster start, that would be great. But I don't think they're going to fall into the trap. But let me know what you think. 267-495-8531. Also some positive news on the injury front. I know Devonta not being able to practice, especially after having all of that rest, is concerning. I know he looked like he was in pain at the end of the Washington game. But Britt Covey's practice window is open. And then with them putting Bryce Huff, I think, on injured reserve, it does open up a roster spot. That means Cooper DeJean hopefully will be off the punt return team. Don't want to add any unnecessary risk for injury there. I know Vic Fangio will be happy. But, man, he was doing a hell of a job returning punts, though. But anything to take and lessen that injury risk will be good. So likely Britt Covey will be activated to the roster, probably will be returning punts, and that is good news for Vic Fangio and Cooper DeJean to avoid the injury bug. All right, it's the holiday season. Philly Goat has their ugly sweaters up and ready. If you remember last year, I got the Eagles one with the leg lamp from A Christmas Story. They have the Philly Fanatic one that says no one likes us, we don't care. Remember the old circle game? You're like, hey, and then you punch somebody. They actually have that as an ugly Christmas sweater. So Philly Goat has you covered for the holiday season. Order early to guarantee you get it in time for your holiday parties. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off. And then take a look and check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences Fan Network. New football podcast is up. Boys were in rare form. I'm about halfway through this week's episode. It was a very busy day at work. Usually I have it on in the background. But, man, lots of good stuff happening there. Lots of good trash talk. So check out the Clashing Conferences podcast wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. All right, so what are we thankful for today? And with the news that Devonta Smith may miss the game, he's 50-50, I think there's only one person we can be thankful for, and that is one A.J. Brown. And A.J., we in Philly are thankful for you. This year, the Eagles are 7-0 when A.J. plays. He's got 33 catches, 618 yards, 3 touchdowns. But more importantly, he's averaging 18 yards, almost 19 yards per catch, which is outstanding. And he's not going anywhere. I think that is the biggest thing. He's here through 2029 minimally. And throughout his career, over 225 catches, over 3,500 yards, 21 touchdowns, in just a little over 3+ years. So he's been worth every cent of that trade. If you remember how he traded a first-round pick for A.J. Brown, and it has paid off major dividends. Certainly one of the leaders of the team. I truly am thankful and appreciate the way he handled the situation with the media last year in the offseason and addressed it head on and said he doesn't want to go anywhere. He loves being here and wants to make this the end of his career in Philadelphia. This dude is a bona fide stud on the field. He seems like a relatively well-grounded guy off the field. Family guy, cares a lot about his daughter, wants to have her set up and have a home, which I think we oftentimes, just like we do with the Mishkov situation, we sometimes forget that these guys are people too. So I think this dude, both on and off the field, is just an absolute stud. Love that he's on our team. Super thankful. So Mega John, we are thankful that you are on our team. And remember, as we get closer to Thanksgiving, we're spotlighting what we're thankful for in Philly sports. Today, A.J. Brown, we are thankful for you. All of this in honor of our gift and food drive benefiting the Matty N. Dixon Community Cupboard. All the information you need is in the description for that. Also, go to Philly Goat. They got the Mega John hoodies up there. My son's wearing his to school today. I probably will wear mine to the soccer tournament tomorrow. It's such a great shirt. But AJ, we are thankful for you in Philly. All right, today, I was actually going to do another double feature. And then as I started to get into this first one, this is such an interesting story that I completely bailed on the second part of it. In case you were wondering, today, back in 2000, the Sixers lost their first game after that 10-0 start. But I figured this was way more entertaining. So today, we're going to go back to 1920. And on this day in 1920, the Phillies traded Epa Rixey to the Reds for one Greasy Neale and Jimmy Ring. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, wait a minute. Greasy Neale. Isn't he the coach for the Eagles back in the 30s and 40s? Yes, he is. But before he was leading the Eagles to 2 championships, he was a Major League Baseball player. He only played 22 games for the Phillies in 1921. But it's such a fun fact that he played for the Philadelphia Phillies, coached the Philadelphia Eagles. He also was a football player. He coached college baseball and basketball, so he was just an all-around just great athlete, great coach. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the Eagles Hall of Fame. But here's the interesting part that I think is, I tried to research this, and it's tough because pre-Super Bowl, the NFL championship was called the NFL Championship and not the Super Bowl. But as far as I could find, Greasy Neale is the only person to win a World Series and an NFL Championship / Super Bowl. I've not been able to find anybody else who crossed those marks and won both. Deion Sanders played in both. He won a couple Super Bowls, but the Braves teams that he was on in the World Series did not win. So as far as I can tell, and usually I don't like to put facts out there unless I'm 100% certain, I am probably about 90-95% certain on this. Greasy Neale is the only player or only person to win a World Series and an NFL championship in their careers. I could be mistaken. I know if there is, it's not many. I know every time I tried to do any type of search, it came back with Deion Sanders. So if you know anybody out there that has a World Series and a Super Bowl or an NFL championship, let me know. But I could not find one. Now, interestingly enough, in the World Series, he played in the 1919 World Series. So if you're a baseball fan, you likely know that was the infamous Black Sox scandal where the White Sox, a lot of their players got suspended for allegedly fixing the games through mobsters and gambling rings and everything like that. If you ever seen the movie 8 Man Out, Shoeless Joe Jackson, who actually had a great World Series despite being accused of throwing the World Series. Greasy Neale played in that World Series and was a starter for the Cincinnati Reds. He ended up hitting .357 in that World Series, just as a little side note. But he was there every day. I believe he was their right fielder on that Cincinnati Reds team that won the World Series in 1919. But on this day in 1920, the Phillies traded for Greasy Neale, who would go on to become the Eagles coach and win 2 championships with the Eagles, becoming, as far as I can tell, the only person to win both a World Series and an NFL championship. And again, if I'm wrong, let me know, because I always like to try to make sure the facts are the facts and everything is accurate. But I could not find anybody who fit into that category. The closest I could find was Deion Sanders, who won a Super Bowl, a couple Super Bowls actually, and played in a World Series. But Greasy Neale, one of the all-time greats in Philly sports history, was traded to the Phillies on this day. Only played in 22 games in 1921 for the Phils before pursuing his coaching career. But, the dude coached college baseball, college basketball, college football, pro football. Dude was just an all-around stud. So Greasy Neale, I'm sure in the 40s, everyone was thankful for you for winning those championships for the Eagles. But on this day, he was traded to the Phillies for Epa Rixey. There's a good name for you, Epa Rixey. So we are thankful for A.J. Brown, though. Please, if you can, contribute, donate to our gift and food drive. Even as small as $5 will make a huge difference. And I thank you and appreciate it in advance. Don't forget, looking ahead, the reverse advent calendar is coming up starting December 1st. I'll get the list of items out as we get closer. But like I said, we're taking a 2-pronged approach to help our friends and neighbors and spread some holiday magic. We'll have more on the Sixers Nets tomorrow. What's going to happen today? I feel like every day it's a news story with the Sixers. We'll have more on the Eagles as we get ready for the big matchup out in LA. But is this a trap game? 267-495-8531. Let me know. I don't think so. I think the way that Sirianni and the coaching staff has these guys prepped, I don't think they'll fall into the trap. Excuse me. I almost made it through a whole episode without coughing. I'm close. I'm getting better. But let me know on the Back to the Future voice and text line. Good luck to the St. Joe's women's field hockey team today as they get ready to take on UNC. It's a feel-good Friday. Go, enjoy the rain, enjoy the snow, be safe out there, but have a great Friday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for November 22nd, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.